I want to talk about leads. So I got this lead, Chris Torrey. He's military. He's going to be military. He's going into boot camp next week. I met him at UPS. Talked to him yesterday. He says, Barb, probably won't be ready until November. What do you do with the lead, Leah?
Put it in your system to start sending him whatever you're sending your
How often?
I would say once every month.
Okay.
When did you say he was ready?
November.
Ooh, maybe more than that.
What else would you do? Anybody? Anything different or extra?
I would just make sure he can talk to a lender just to see, what he has to do for the future.
He doesn't have a job, so that one's out. The only other thing I came up with is I marked my calendar to touch bases with them every other month. How's training going? Yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit. They're yelling at you. I've been through it, so I can relate to it. I just am glad you didn't give me the answer that you're not going to hit them till November. Awesome. When you put a client on auto email, how long should you leave them on there?
Forever. Even
if they're not
if they
answering?
don't look at it, and if they do decline getting any emails from you.
No, I always still bother them because a lot of times they hit that button by mistake if they're new.
Right.
If they're not new, they're telling you to piss off, but do you? No. You still contact them one more time, and then you put them in your follow-up for another 6 months. You never know if they got sick, divorced, married.
If they went on another venture. Okay.
And you know that when you renew those, when they run out, you can update the personal message and change it. Mm-hmm. Okay. I have another lead, a seller who wants to sell her condo. Let's say it's worth 100. She wants 150. What do you do with that?
List it.
Referral.
She wants 50,000 more.
You could get other leads from it.
It's worth 100.
I tell her to go down to 120 and look for 100.
My tactic is going to be, you've got a loan on this thing. We believe the market's going to drop. Are you sure you want to wait? And then if she wants to wait, that's cool. Then what do? What do you plug into your calendar?
Day to call her.
Based on when would you target? So we're in January. I need her up 50 grand. When are you going to target to redo comps? Probably April or May. No, not every month. That's a waste of your time, right? 'Cause if it was a summer, yes. But right now, no.
Probably not.
So when you put these leads in, don't make the mistake I made at the beginning. I put in to call everybody the next week. That doesn't happen when you've got 3,000 or 4,000 people. So you got to think about when to program them in from the beginning. Question came up this morning at 6 o'clock. Somebody that has a listing wants to know if their seller should be making a payment. This came up on somebody else's and one of my listings this morning. What would your answer be to them?
Yes.
It's supposed to close 3 February. Today's what, the 12th?
Yes, make the payment.
You will get the money back after escrow closes, depending on the day.
Okay, I dispute that. I could be right, could be wrong. The first thing I would do is call title. Is the demand in? If the demand is in for the payoff, the demand expires on a certain date. So if it expires February 28th or whatever that date is this year, they're okay. They don't need to make it. If they haven't ordered it yet, they need to make it or they're going to get a late.
Okay. For the demand, just checking on the date that it does stop.
What's title's answer going to be on should I make a payment?
Always, yeah. Or they're not going to say anything?
They are not. That is a legal question.
Okay.
And I don't recommend that you give a definite answer. I recommend that you give a scenario. But if they do make the payment, even if the demand's in, and if you don't have a clue if they should be making it or not, you should ask them to copy their bank statement a couple days later when the payment goes through and send that to title right away. Any questions on that?
No.
All right. I have some combat stories of being combat ready. And I'd like each of you to share one that's come up recently for you. So Saturday, I had a client, only had 3 houses in all of Las Vegas to show her. Three townhouses. We get to the first one. She didn't like the neighborhood, so we didn't even go in. We left. Go to the second one. I got an update on my phone from her listings that I plugged in. I always plug them in case they go to C or P or whatever those initials are now. I got a change. It went up $100,000. We obviously didn't go in to see that. We get to the third and final one. The agent listed it as a house. It was a fucking condo. I had no success for that day. They went to start their car. The car wouldn't start. How many of us have jumper cables? You guys are queens. Do you know how to actually hook them up?
Yes, I actually have a not just jumper cables, but it's a battery. You don't have to connect it to another car. It's just a battery.
Those are nice.
Yeah.
I've used jumper cables for clients probably in the last 14 years 3 times only. But those 3 times made me a hero. And just having them in my car was great because I always leave my lights on. They jump me more than I jump them. Okay, so I went to meet another client who was accepting an offer, and he threw a wrench when I got to sign with him in person. He has no email, no computer. And he goes, I want a counter offer. Was I combat ready? What do you think? Did I have a counter in my car?
I hope so.
You-
Absolutely.
So you
Keep
just
that
have to
paperwork
sign
in your car, you guys. Have you made a file like that yet?
With all the paperwork for the list, yeah, I have it in my case. Not with me. Today was cold calling day. So.
It should always be in your car. Then you don't have to remember it. That's just my opinion. What's the answer to this question? You had a listing, it's closed, and the buyer calls you and asks you to take all the photographs off the MLS. It's a flip.
Well,
So
I think for as a courtesy, you could, but I don't think we're.
How could you after it's closed?
Well, if they're on the MLS, you have the option to go back to your MLS and delete the pictures from there.
Not after it's put in S.
Oh, I thought we
You can't
could.
change anything after it's put in S. You have to call MLS to do it. But they will do it. That's,
Okay.
That's something I learned this week. What did you learn this week?
What did I learn this week?
Yeah, about real estate that you never heard of before. That was a real new one on me. Never had anybody ask that.
Right.
But he didn't want, it was a real barrio listing. He didn't want someone to see how terribly awful bad it was. Why? If an inspector sees those pictures or the new buyer, it's probably not very good for your price.
Right.
What did you learn this week? Or what can you share with us to help Leah?
I don't know. I can't come up with
Okay,
something
Leah,
this quick.
What can you share? Anything? Anything that's come up that might help somebody else?
Oh. When you're put on the spot, it's kind of tough to.
Yep. Pretend I'm on the phone and I'm an investor.
I've been dealing a lot with kind of the investing side and dealing with the title company out of town. And what I didn't realize is like how.
What do you mean the title company out of town?
The title company
Out of state.
out of state. I meant, yeah. and I didn't realize, how a mortgage or a warranty deed is different than like a title and things like that,
Very
and how
different.
really important it is to, like all that information doesn't get from the seller. And there's a lot of things you don't know until it hits title. And now I'm trying to kind of keep control of the steering wheel from this point, to the point giving any information I can to help facilitate the process.
Can
but
I
it's-
add something in
Mhm.
there? And to help facilitate that, are you aware of ordering a property profile?
I kind of did one sort of in a way, but that some of that information didn't pop up since it
You
wasn't
can
an
order that
MLS.
from title.
From title, like beforehand.
Yes.
Mhm.
Beforehand?
Like
Okay.
today.
Okay.
For your
Before you
listing.
do
Mhm.
anything with the property, you can always get it.
Property profile?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. If you're with Shelley, well, actually, Mary orders them. Mary Turner. I'll give you that number. Do you have Mary Turner's phone in your phone?
I
Can you
haven't
send
been
it to him?
Can you send it to me too, please?
Those are a big deal.
Mhm.
That's how I found out I had a $1.8 million lien on my
Ooh.
$300,000 property. Didn't stop me. It's just nice to know that I have a few more hurdles. Okay.
Because that wouldn't come out until, like, if you were doing a listing until the buyer came in and started to buy it.
Yeah, because the seller's probably not going to tell
Until
you
they-
that.
right.
And so you have the information.
Oh, so speaking of that, if you ever have a client, when you're taking a listing that says, hey, could you do a property profile and just check and see if I have any liens? What goes up in your head?
They have liens.
What do? Do you ask them?
I'd say yeah.
Yeah, you better. That happened to Crystal. She didn't ask. She's pretty new at this. And now we're ready to close, and it's come up that they've got an IRS lien. The government's closed. Nothing can happen.
Oh, no.
If she would have shared that with Crystal, maybe things would have ended up the same, but I think title could have specifically looked up IRS. I don't think that's something that normally comes up unless it's really old. This is a new hit on her credit. Yeah. Okay, so Leah asked to look through one of her combat offers to see if we could come up with any things to help her. The listing's at 109. She made an offer of 120. Her comp showed 140. How do you know the investor? What do you know about him?
We've been friends for a long time.
It's a personal friend.
Yeah.
So you're able to talk a little bit more easily to them than normal?
Yep.
And what did they say when you recommended 140 instead of 120?
He said that he doesn't have that much money, that all he has is 120. And I
Oh,
said,
so he's maxing.
yeah, and I said, well, let's just go ahead and do your offer, because you never know.
Okay, and so it's probably not going to go anywhere.
Oh, no, it didn't. It didn't go anywhere.
They picked
Not-
somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm curious, before you showed it to him, did you contact the listing agent?
Is it say, oh, it's probably an E. I don't think I did on this one. I just went and showed it. And I know that they were taking offers online to a certain day.
Yeah, that's probably a hint that they know that they've underlisted it, probably, when they say that.
Right.
Personally, whenever I go to show stuff, I always email and lately more texting to find out, hey, do you have any offers?
Oh, well, I do that.
Okay, so
I
you
always
did do
call
that.
to make sure that it's still available, and if they
Do you
have any
call or
offers.
email?
Whatever it says on the sheet, if it says to text, I'll text. If it says to email, I'll email.
Oh,
If it
what if it doesn't
say
say anything?
anything, then I will call. Because I would rather talk to them than do a text or an email.
Yeah, I think that's good. I looked through
To
your
get a
offer.
feeling.
I looked through your offer. I have some suggestions, but I absolutely zero of what you could have done better.
I know of one thing I could have done,
What's
or two. The price.
Well,
Of course, but he couldn't go any higher. And two, the due diligence.
well, that was one of the things I circled. So one of the things that just standard offers, I hate links. This offer is contingent upon cash. Cash isn't marked with other. Just FYI.
Okay.
I'll give this back to you. It's not a big deal. Just sometimes if you get a brand new agent that's never done a deal, they don't know how to read this. Make it very clear. The other thing, well, your due diligence was only 5 days.
Well, and I know, but on a property that's like this for a flipper, they have somebody that goes with us to the property to give them, their estimate of how much it's going to be. So I'm thinking that that could have been better as to where he already knows that he's going to flip it. He already knows what he's going to spend. So why did we have to have a due diligence?
You don't. So
that's
if
what I
you
was
put
thinking.
0 though, I would get in there. If they're doing any kind of inspection, I would get in there before they pick a buyer, so you have that. In other words, you can do an inspection before it's accepted.
Right, and that's what I was saying is that's what we did. We went to the property, and that's what I'm thinking for the future. So do you think we should put 0 if that's what I have them do like a basic inspection beforehand?
Do I think you should? No. Absolutely no. Do I do it? Yes. Absolutely yes. It's no different than the chance you're taking on page 1 when you do additional deposit. You just got to make sure you mark those boxes right. You got to make sure if you do no due diligence that you have that marked in your calendar and you're taking care of your client. Because if they get to day 6 and they want to cancel, your only cancellation reason at that point, if there's no HOA, is what? A prelim title? And anything else? SRPDs.
SRPD.
5 days.
5 days.
What can you? What about the prelim title?
You have 10 days for that one.
All right,
Thank
thank you. Let's see.
Bye.
I'm interested in that, because I also deal with a lot of these guys too, and actually have one guy that was a mortgage broker. Now he does, offers and stuff like that with cash buyers. I'm interested. I may follow up with you to see what you ended up
Okay.
doing. Have a
Thanks
good
for
day.
coming.
See you.
Bye. See you later.
The only other suggestion I have, like I said, I didn't find anything really that you could do better. 0. A better price, but he didn't have the money, so that's
Right.
not an option. You maxed it.
Right.
But on page 9, I would definitely recap some of those things in case you have a new listing agent that doesn't know how to read a contract. Could you read those things out loud?
The EMD could be higher. The additional deposit.
I'm on page 9. What I do is I highlight, note,
Oh, okay.
higher EMD than requested, note, additional deposit, note, no appraisal.